I'm Brian Hussar, and this is my room. If you're new to my channel, I talk about my love of the Beatles, my love of music, my love of physical media, and of course, movies. If you like what you see in any of those configurations, or if you're curious about any of them, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, spread the word. I also want to give a shout out to my younger son, Max. He has a channel, 1939 Superfan, and he does this all on his own. He works very hard with editing on his phone and coming up with these skits involving superheroes and action figures, and he's very funny, very creative. So if you have children who are into superheroes, who are into funny stuff, give 1939 Superfan a like and subscribe. He's really, why don't I have any more subscribers, and well, here, and once Superman, the new James Gunn Superman comes out, he and I are going to do a collab together, so that'll be awesome. But it's been a while, and I'm here to talk about the next in my Beatles American Albums review. Since we're going in order, and since I got the vinyl reissue, Beatles 65. This is essentially Volume 1 of Beatles for Sale in America. Volume 2 would be completed with Beatles 6 in early 65, which I will get to. I don't have that one on vinyl, but I do have the CD reissue. But Dave Dexter by now was starting to come up with a formula. As Bruce Spicer says in the beautiful liner notes that come here, that come with these records, he knew Beatle fans would be okay with 11 tracks on an album. Originally it was 12 tracks on an album, now 11 tracks. So, but he pretty much kept the first side of the UK's Beatles for Sale intact, with the exception of Kansas City, which closed side 1, which would have been the 7th track on side 1, because the Beatles had 14 tracks in England, 7 on side 1, 7 on side 2, with the exception being A Hard Day's Night. So you got No Reply, I'm a Loser, Babies in Black, Rock and Roll Music, I'll Follow the Sun, and Mr. Moonlight. No issues with me regarding that running order, because that's the way it was in the UK. He edited out Kansas City, which would appear on Beatles 6. He edited out 8 Days a Week, backed with I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, because that was going to be a single in America. And we also lost Words of Love, which those two began side 2 of Beatles for Sale. 8 Days a Week and Words of Love. And then it goes into Honey Don't. So Honey Don't opens side 2. And then he goes back to the final song on the UK A Hard Day's Night album with I'll Be Back. I first heard it here. I do prefer it as the closer on the UK A Hard Day's Night album, because it's like the Beatles telling you, hey, I will be back. We'll be back. Then, of course, the practice in America, including the latest singles, She's a Woman and I Feel Fine. It was I Feel Fine back with She's a Woman, and then he closes out with the album closer of the UK Beatles for Sale, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. And of course you have the unknown liner notes on here. Some said it couldn't really be happening, that it was just publicity, and the fabulous Beatles proved them wrong. Others said they couldn't last more than a month, that nobody could hang on to that kind of fame. The Beatles, of course, proved them wrong too. Blah, 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 blah. These are new favorites by the 4 boys who have proven themselves to be the biggest favorites of all. Here's Beatles 65. However, again, Dexter put together a winner. I will say that I'm not a fan of the cover art. Although I grew up with this cover art, I would have loved if they used the Robert Freeman photo that was on the cover of Beatles for Sale. It kind of captured the mood of some of the songs, and I always kind of considered that more of a transitional album anyway. But I still like the album, and I think the photo of Beatles for Sale actually kind of works and fits with the material. This is it's good for the kids, you know. It's the zany, lovable mop tops. You know, these are the zanies level. The actually though, I didn't realize this is supposed to represent the four seasons. That was the liner notes. Here you got spring. I think that's supposed to be no, that's spring because they're holding springs. Um, I don't know if that's winter or if that's summer. I don't know, but I read in the liner notes that this is supposed to represent the four seasons. That's what this photo session was. I think these were done by Robert Freeman as well. I could be wrong there. But for the vinyl release, again, it's mono. And again, for you who have longed for the unique American editions of the mixes, these have them. These have them, and the drenched in echo versions of She's a Woman and I Feel Fine, they're on here. That's those versions, the ones that I always say sounded like they were recorded in a cave. And that was what I envisioned. The Beatles were in some sort of long tunnel somewhere, set up their instruments, and they recorded. Hearing the mono editions, I like them. Those were the official editions. There was no echo on these in England. The echo was something Dave Dexter did, but it might seem blasphemous. But especially on I Feel Fine, it gives that opening feedback note a hint of mystery, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I like the heavy echo Dave Dexter version of She's a Woman and I Feel Fine. I love it. Now, the stereo mix of that was Capitol's famous Duophonic, which was electronically reprocessed for stereo, which they would add the bass to one channel and the treble to another channel, and Capitol would add a slight delay to each channel. This was my father's favorite Beatles album, next to the American Rubber Soul. This was my father's favorite Beatles album. When the Beatles albums came out on CD and I started buying them in the early 90s, he kept asking, is Beatles 65 out on CD? Is Beatles 65 out on CD? And I said, no, you want to get Beatles for Sale. That's essentially Beatles 65. But he always wanted Beatles 65 on CD. And it finally came out on CD with the initial Capitol Records Volume 1 and 2 box sets, which I need to get those because those do have the American mixes on them. And, of course, the U.S. albums box set that came out in 2014. But Beatles 65, I really like the record, and I think it's one of the strong American albums. And like I said, give the devil his due. Dave Dexter kind of knew what he was doing. And despite some of the things that might have been said, the liner notes that Bruce Spicer includes really makes me rethink a lot of the stuff I thought about Dave Dexter originally. Give him his due. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Okay? Thank you for watching. Drop me a line. Give me some comments. Give me some suggestions on what you'd like me to cover. I got some reviews coming up for 4K releases. In fact, some of you people noticed I did an unboxing last month of 3 Clint Eastwood films on 4K. And I'll be talking about those. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon.